The world feels more unpredictable than ever. This constant uncertainty can leave your mind feeling scattered and anxious. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul takes on the color of its thoughts, and that tranquility is found by turning inward. His philosophy, Stoicism, offers a timeless anchor in our chaotic times. By the end of this, you will possess a complete mental framework for building unshakable resilience. We will explore a structured routine of ancient habits designed to cultivate profound peace, a system not of rigid rules but of a flexible mindset. How does your current morning routine set the tone for your entire day? How does your morning typically begin? Is it a reactive scramble, checking notifications and responding to demands before you have even fully woken up? Or is it a time you claim for yourself, a quiet moment of preparation for whatever may come? The first moments of your day set the psychological stage for everything that follows, and the ancient Stoics understood this power intimately. They built their entire philosophy on a simple but profound principle known as the Dichotomy of Control. This is the practice of rigorously separating everything in your life into two distinct categories: what is within your power and what is not. Your own judgments, your intentions, your desires, your actions, these are yours to command. The weather, traffic, the opinions of others, the final outcome of a project, these lie outside your sphere. The philosopher Epictetus put it plainly when he said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." A frustrating commute only has the power to ruin your morning if you judge it as a personal offense rather than a simple fact of life. This is the core of the morning invocation, a deliberate ritual of setting your intentions not on achieving specific outcomes, but on mastering your own responses. Consider a modern professional facing a critical presentation. A reactive morning might be spent anxiously rehearsing every possible question, worrying about a skeptical client, or fearing technical failures. This scatters their mental energy and builds tension. A Stoic morning, however, would look profoundly different. In those first quiet minutes, they would consciously acknowledge what is within their control. They can control how well they have prepared their material. They can control the clarity of their speech and their respectful demeanor. Then they would deliberately release what is not. They cannot control the client's mood, a last-minute change in the schedule, or whether the projector works. By making this mental division, they step into their day not as a victim of circumstance, but as a focused, capable individual, armed with a clear purpose that no external event can easily shake. So as you consider your own day ahead, take a moment for this simple practice. Identify one single thing you can truly control, perhaps your commitment to listening patiently in a difficult conversation. And then identify one thing you must consciously accept as being outside your command, like the final decision your boss will make. This small act of mental sorting is not a passive surrender. It is the active cultivation of your greatest strength, your inner citadel. How often do you truly reflect on your day before you sleep? For most of us, the evening is a time to shut down, to escape into distraction until consciousness fades. But the Stoics saw these final quiet moments as perhaps the most valuable of all. This is the time for the evening review, a practice the philosopher Seneca called his daily audit. He would end each day by asking his soul a series of simple, piercing questions. What bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? His aim was not to punish himself for shortcomings, but to learn from them and to consciously reinforce what he had done well. This is not about guilt, it is about growth. It is a non-judgmental examination of conscience, a tool for cultivating the self-awareness that leads to continuous improvement. Seneca wrote in his letters that sleep should follow this self-examination, and that a mind engaged in such reflection is wonderfully calm. Think of it as a gentle debrief for your soul. Consider a moment from your own day, perhaps a flash of irritation when a colleague interrupted you during focused work. The instinctive reaction is to shrug it off or to quietly resent the person. The evening review asks you to revisit that moment with calm reason. Did your response align with your best self? Was the sharp tone necessary, or was it a surrender to a fleeting impulse? The goal is not to criticize yourself for feeling annoyed. That is a natural human reaction. The goal is to examine your choice of action. Could you have paused, acknowledged the interruption calmly, and set a boundary without the edge in your voice? By dissecting the event, you are not dwelling on the past, you are training for the future. You are building a mental muscle memory for a more reasoned response the next time a similar situation arises. So tonight, before the day completely fades, try this simple audit. Recall just one reaction you had today, a moment of frustration, a spark of impatience, or even a small victory of calm. Ask yourself gently, where did that come from? Was it governed by reason, or was it a raw nerve being struck? How might viewing that moment through the lens of what you can control, your own response, have changed its shape? This nightly practice slowly etches the principles of the morning into the reality of your lived experience, closing the loop on a day lived with intention. Your first thought about a situation is not always the truth. It arrives automatically, colored by instinct and past experience. But the Stoics argued we possess a critical power in the brief space that follows, the power to withhold our agreement. This is the discipline of assent, the practice of pausing before you automatically accept your initial judgments as reality. An impression is just a raw data point hitting your mind, a notification that something has occurred. Assent is your conscious choice to either confirm that notification as fact or to question its validity. The philosopher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, understood this distinction with profound clarity. He taught that people are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them. A critical email is just text on a screen until you assent to the impression that it is a personal attack. A delayed flight is an event until you assent to the judgment that it is a catastrophe meant to ruin your day. This ancient insight finds a powerful echo in modern cognitive psychology, which calls this very same skill cognitive distancing, the ability to see your thoughts as just thoughts, not absolute truth. Consider the moment you receive some critical feedback on a project you have poured your heart into. The initial, raw impression is often one of sharp defensiveness, a flush of heat, a narrative forming instantly that this is unfair, that the critic does not understand your work, that you have failed. This is the automatic judgment. The practice of the discipline of assent is to insert a moment of silence right there. You notice the defensive thought, you feel the physical reaction, but you do not immediately agree with its story. You pause and ask, is this interpretation the only one possible? What if the feedback, however poorly delivered, contains a kernel of useful truth? What if the person is not attacking my character, but is genuinely trying to improve the outcome? By withholding your immediate assent from the defensive interpretation, you create space for a more rational and measured one to emerge. You can then choose to assent to a more useful thought, such as, this is uncomfortable, but it is an opportunity to learn and refine my work. The event itself did not change, but your conscious choice about how to view it transformed your entire experience of it. Bring to mind a recent moment where a negative impression swept over you. Perhaps it was a terse text message you interpreted as anger, or a sudden change of plans you labeled as a major inconvenience. In that moment, what story did you immediately tell yourself? Now rewind that moment and imagine yourself pausing before you agreed with that first story. What other, more generous or more factual, interpretations could have existed in that space? By practicing this simple pause, you are not denying reality. You are refusing to be a passive recipient of your own mental reflexes. You are building a filter for your perceptions, ensuring that only reasoned judgments, not raw impressions, get to dictate your peace of mind. What if every setback was actually a gift? This is the radical invitation of a principle known as Amor Fati, a Latin phrase that simply means a love of one's fate. It is the ultimate evolution of Stoic acceptance, moving beyond mere tolerance of life's difficulties to a genuine embrace of them. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic thought, captured its spirit when he wrote his personal motto, that he wanted to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. He was not talking about a passive resignation, but an active, creative partnership with reality itself. It is the decision to weave every single thread, the dark and the light, the smooth and the rough, into the fabric of a life you would not trade for any other. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a similar guidance from his own battlefield meditations, writing that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. This is the core of Amor Fati, to become that fire, transforming obstacles into fuel for your own growth. Imagine you have been looking forward to a weekend trip for months, a much-needed escape, and at the last moment it is cancelled. The initial wave of disappointment is real, a natural human emotion. The standard reaction is to fume, to dwell on the frustration, to let the entire weekend be colored by this single change of plans. But the practice of loving your fate asks a different question. It invites you to look at the empty space that has just opened up in your life and to find the opportunity hidden within it. That cancelled trip is now a quiet evening at home you did not know you needed, time to finally read that book or have a long, uninterrupted conversation with someone you love. The event itself did not change, but your relationship to it transforms completely. It is no longer a setback, it becomes a necessary redirection. Think of a recent disappointment in your own life, something that felt like a genuine failure or a roadblock. Now try on the lens of Amor Fati. Ask yourself, how could this exact event, this specific frustration, be a gift in disguise? What strength did it force me to uncover? What path did it close so that a better one might open? What unimportant thing did it strip away to reveal what truly matters? This is not about pretending hardship feels good, but about trusting that every part of your story is essential material for building a life of depth, resilience, and unexpected meaning. How small do your biggest worries seem from space? This question lies at the heart of a profound Stoic mental exercise known as the view from above, a technique Marcus Aurelius repeatedly used to anchor his own perspective. He would mentally pull back, envisioning the entire bustling world below, its cities and conflicts, all reduced to insignificant specks on a tiny planet. From this cosmic vantage point, our personal dramas, our urgent deadlines, and our social anxieties lose their crushing weight. They are revealed for what they are, small events in a vast and ancient universe. In his private writings, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to frequently contemplate the swift passage of all that exists and how everything is born to change and perish. He reflected on the countless generations of people who have come before us, each with their own fervent hopes and private griefs, all now silent and returned to the earth. What remains of their heated arguments or their desperate grasps for fame? This is not meant to make our lives feel meaningless, but to free us from the tyranny of self-importance that magnifies every minor problem. Imagine a stressful conflict at your workplace, a disagreement over a project that feels all-consuming in the moment. Your heart races, your mind replays the argument, and the outcome feels critically important. Now perform the view from above. Project your mind forward 100 years. In that future, everyone involved in this conflict, including you, will be gone. The project itself, regardless of its outcome, will likely be a forgotten footnote if it is remembered at all. The office building may be repurposed or demolished. From that future perspective, does the sharp word from your colleague still demand your outrage? Does the project's specific deadline still justify your sleepless night? The facts of the situation have not changed, but the context you have placed them in has expanded dramatically, draining them of their toxic intensity. This mental shift creates a spaciousness within your mind, allowing tranquility to flow in where anxiety once ruled. So take a current concern, any source of tension that feels heavy on your shoulders right now. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine your city from a mile high, then your country from orbit, and finally the whole blue earth hanging in the immense silence of space. Now look back at your worry from that impossible distance. Does its grip on you feel the same? Note the subtle shift, not toward indifference, but toward a liberating and wiser sense of proportion. Is worrying about worst-case scenarios always a destructive habit? The Stoics would argue that when done with intention, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for building resilience. They called this practice Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not the anxious, circular fretting that keeps you up at night. It is a calm, systematic rehearsal of potential challenges, a mental fire drill that prepares you to act with clarity when real difficulty arrives. Seneca, who wrote extensively on preparing the mind for adversity, advised us to remind ourselves that we should love all of our relatives, but always with the thought that we might lose them. His purpose was not to breed fear, but to strip future loss of its element of surprise and to deepen our appreciation for what we have in the present moment. By willingly visiting these possibilities in our minds, we inoculate ourselves against the paralyzing shock of fortune's twists and turns. Imagine you are about to give a major presentation, and the common fear of public speaking begins to surface. The anxious warrior might try to suppress the thought, repeating to themselves that everything will be fine, only to have their mind spiral into vivid images of stumbling over words or facing a silent, unimpressed room. The Stoic approach is to lean directly into the fear with reason. You would sit quietly and systematically premeditate the very worst realistic outcome. What if my voice shakes? I will pause, take a breath, and continue. What if someone asks a question I cannot answer? I will acknowledge that I do not know and offer to find the information later. What if the technology fails? I will have printed notes as a backup and proceed without the slides. By mentally walking through each potential disaster and planning your reasoned response, you transform vague anxiety into a series of manageable scenarios. The event loses its power to terrorize you because you have already faced it in the safe space of your own mind and have a plan of action. Consider a common fear in your own life, perhaps the possibility of a significant professional setback. Take a moment to premeditate it now. What is the core of the fear? The loss of status, the financial pressure, the perceived failure? Now apply the Stoic lens. What aspects of this situation would remain within your control? Your ability to search for new opportunities, your capacity to live more frugally, your choice to learn from the experience rather than be defined by it. This rational rehearsal does not attract misfortune. It builds an inner citadel so strong that when winds of change blow, you are not knocked over but stand firm, prepared for whatever may come. How much of your life is spent regretting the past or fearing the future? These two territories, one a ghost and the other a phantom, are where most of our anxiety takes root. The Stoics pointed to a radical alternative, a profound contentment found not in chasing future pleasures, but in fully inhabiting the present moment. This is not the fleeting thrill of hedonism, which is always searching for the next distraction, but a deep and quiet satisfaction with the reality directly in front of you. Seneca saw this clearly, writing with piercing clarity that we are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied but wasteful of it. He lamented how we postpone our lives, constantly planning to begin living at some future date, while the present, the only time we truly possess, slips through our fingers. When your mind is trapped in yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries, you are mentally absent from your own existence. You are missing the only life you will ever have, the one happening right now. Think of the simple act of drinking a cup of tea. So often we do this on autopilot, the mug in our hand while our eyes are on a screen, our minds replaying a conversation or composing an email. The warmth of the cup, the aroma of the steam, the complex flavor on your tongue, all of it goes unnoticed. The Stoic practice is to choose one such mundane activity and pour your entire attention into it. For those 5 minutes, let the tea be your entire universe. Feel the heat seep into your hands, inhale the scent deeply, taste each sip with deliberate focus. When your mind inevitably wanders to a worry or a memory, gently guide it back to the sensation of the warm liquid in your mouth. In this small act, you are not just drinking tea, you are reclaiming your own presence. You are exercising the muscle of attention, the very faculty that anxiety seeks to steal. This evening, or perhaps right now if you can, give yourself the gift of 5 minutes. Choose one simple activity. It could be feeling the water on your skin in the shower, or truly listening to a single piece of music without doing anything else. Do not try to make it profound, simply be fully there. Observe what happens to the volume of your worries when you stop feeding them with your attention. Do they feel less solid, less demanding? This is the art of contentment, the quiet discovery that the present moment, however ordinary, is already complete. Stoicism is not a philosophy of emotional suppression, but one of profound understanding and mastery. It invites you not to feel less, but to feel with greater clarity and purpose. This leads us to the goal of apatheia, a term often misunderstood in our modern world. Apatheia does not mean apathy, that dull state of not caring. It means freedom from the destructive passions, those irrational and overwhelming emotions like blind rage, consuming envy, or paralyzing grief that hijack your reason and cloud your judgment. It is the calm at the center of the storm, a state where you can experience feelings without being enslaved by them. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a map to this inner freedom when he taught that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event itself is neutral until your judgment gives it power. That critical email is just text. The traffic jam is just stationary cars. It is your opinion that the email is a personal insult, or that the traffic is a personal injustice that creates the storm of anger within you. Imagine you are driving and another car suddenly cuts you off. The initial biological jolt of adrenaline is automatic. The raw impression is one of danger and violation. The passion of anger rises instantly, urging you to lean on the horn, to shout, to retaliate in some way. This is the critical moment of choice. The practice of apatheia is to insert a sliver of reason between that impulse and your action. You notice the heat of the anger, you feel the tension in your hands on the wheel, but you do not assent to its demand for a reaction. You apply reason. You might tell yourself that driver is likely distracted or in a hurry, not targeting me personally. My safety and the safety of others is my primary concern. Honking in rage will not change what happened. It will only poison my own mood for the next hour. By consciously choosing this reasoned perspective, the surge of anger, deprived of the fuel of your agreement, begins to dissipate. It may not vanish entirely, but it no longer controls the steering wheel. You have practiced apatheia, you remained free. Now, bring to mind a passion that frequently disrupts your own peace. It might be a flash of envy when a colleague succeeds, or a familiar anxiety before a social event. Identify it clearly. Then, gently ask yourself this question, not with self-judgment, but with curiosity. What is the underlying judgment or opinion that gives this passion its power? Do I believe that their success diminishes my own? Am I telling myself that I will be judged harshly? By uncovering this root cause, you bring it into the light of your reason, where its power to upset you begins to fade. What if you occasionally chose discomfort on purpose? This question cuts to the heart of a powerful and counterintuitive Stoic exercise known as voluntary discomfort. It is not about punishing yourself or seeking misery, but about a deliberate form of training, much like lifting weights to strengthen a muscle. By willingly embracing minor hardships, you build a resilience that makes you immune to the fear of losing your comfort. You prove to yourself, through direct experience, that your happiness and character are not dependent on perfect external conditions. The Stoic philosopher Seneca was a profoundly wealthy man, yet he regularly practiced poverty. He would sleep on a hard bed, wear simple clothing, and live on a modest diet for set periods. He wrote that we must learn to want little so that we will never be in want. His goal was to reassure his soul that these conditions were not to be dreaded, that a good life was possible even without his vast riches. This practice robs poverty of its terror by making it a familiar, even chosen, companion. A modern application of this is as simple as taking a cold shower. The initial shock is a jolt to the system, a clear signal of discomfort. But if you stay under the water and breathe through it, you discover something remarkable. You find that the sensation is manageable, that your mind can observe the cold without being controlled by the urge to escape. You emerge not just clean, but with a quiet confidence, having demonstrated to yourself that you can handle an unpleasant feeling. Other small practices include walking to the store instead of driving on a chilly day, fasting from social media for 24 hours to confront the itch of boredom, or eating a simple meal of rice and vegetables to appreciate the luxury of your usual food. Each act is a small declaration of independence from the tyranny of constant ease. This week, I challenge you to choose one small, safe act of voluntary discomfort. It could be as simple as turning off the heating in your car for a short drive and just noticing the cold, or leaving your phone in another room for an entire evening. Do not make it a test of endurance, but an experiment in awareness. Afterwards, take a moment to reflect. What did you learn about your own capacity for resilience? Did the temporary lack of comfort, once you stopped resisting it, reveal a quieter, more durable kind of strength beneath the surface? You are going to die. This is not morbid, it is a liberating truth. The Stoics practiced a powerful exercise called memento mori, a Latin phrase that translates to remember you must die. Far from being a dark obsession, this was their most potent tool for creating a life of vibrant purpose and urgent virtue. It is the ultimate antidote to procrastination and the trivial worries that can consume our days. When you hold the finite nature of your own existence clearly in mind, the things that are truly important snap into sharp focus, while the noise of life fades into the background. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire with this thought always near, wrote in his private meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not being dramatic, he was being practical. He saw death not as a terrifying end, but as a natural and necessary part of the cosmic order, a constant reminder that now is the only time we ever have to act with integrity and courage. Think of a petty argument you had recently, perhaps a clash over a minor household chore or a perceived slight in a text message. In the heat of the moment, it felt so significant, so worth your emotional energy. Now imagine viewing that same argument from your deathbed. From that final vantage point, how much would any of it truly matter? The forgotten dish in the sink, the curt reply, all of it would seem so vanishingly small. The only thing that would hold any weight would be the love in your relationships and the character you displayed. This is the perspective Memento Mori grants you. It does not ask you to ignore daily life, but to live it with the wisdom of your own ending, ensuring that your actions align with your deepest values. So here is a simple practice. Take a moment to write down your answer to this question. If you knew with certainty that you had only 1 year left to live, what would you immediately stop doing? And what would you finally start? Your answers are not a morbid fantasy, they are a compass. They point directly toward the life you are being called to live right now, free from the illusion of endless tomorrows. What if everything happening is for the ultimate good of the whole? This question challenges our most basic instincts, yet it forms the bedrock of the Stoic understanding of the universe, a concept they called providence. The Stoics saw the cosmos not as a chaotic, random place, but as a single, living, and rational entity, governed by a divine reason they termed the logos. Within this interconnected whole, every event, no matter how painful or confusing it appears from our limited perspective, plays a necessary role in the grand tapestry. A challenge is not a random punishment, but a specific ingredient required for the growth of your soul and the balance of the whole. Marcus Aurelius, facing immense personal and political turmoil, constantly returned to this idea. He wrote in his meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." And then he gives this crucial instruction: accept everything that happens as if you had wished for it yourself. This is the ultimate act of trust, to welcome an event not because you enjoy it, but because you believe in the intelligence of the universe that produced it. Imagine the profound disorientation of an unexpected job loss. The initial interpretation is almost always one of personal failure, a blow to your identity and security. The narrative of rejection and fear takes over, but the lens of providence asks you to shift that narrative entirely. What if this ending is not a verdict on your past, but a necessary redirection for your future? Perhaps that role was limiting a talent you have not yet discovered. Perhaps the comfort of the paycheck was keeping you from pursuing a deeper calling. The universe, in its inscrutable wisdom, has simply removed the worn-out path to force you onto a new, more authentic one. The event itself remains difficult, but your relationship to it transforms from one of victimhood to one of partnership with a larger plan. Think of a recent difficulty in your own life, a rejection, a health scare, a relationship that ended. For a moment, set aside the story of why it was unfair or painful. Instead, ask yourself with genuine curiosity, how might this exact event be serving a hidden purpose in my life's narrative? What strength is it demanding I cultivate? What attachment is it asking me to release? What new direction is it subtly, or not so subtly, pointing toward? This is not a call to passive resignation, but to an active and profound form of acceptance, where you align your will with the unfolding intelligence of the world itself. Your personal peace is linked to your contribution to the peace of others. The inner resilience we cultivate is not meant to be hoarded in a private fortress, but to be shared generously with the world around us. This brings us to the final pillar of the Stoic routine, the discipline of action, which calls on us to ensure our deeds are not only virtuous for ourselves, but actively contribute to the common welfare of humanity. The Stoics identified a fundamental force in human nature they called oikeiosis, a profound and natural inclination to care for others, to recognize that we are fundamentally social creatures made for cooperation, not isolation. From this innate connection spring the core virtues of justice and benevolence, the drive to act fairly and to extend goodwill, because the well-being of the whole is inseparable from our own. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he reminded himself that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful and to turn away. Just as your hands work in unison without demanding individual credit, your purpose is to play your part in the human community. Imagine you are at work and you notice a colleague struggling under a tight deadline for a project that is not directly your responsibility. The easy, self-focused action is to keep your head down, finish your own work, and leave on time. The Stoic action, guided by the virtue of justice and the understanding of our shared nature, is different. You would pause and ask, what does the common welfare require here? You then choose to stay for 30 minutes, not for a bonus or for praise, but because helping a fellow human in need is the right and rational thing to do. Your action strengthens the social fabric you are a part of, and in doing so, it reinforces your own character and deepens your sense of belonging. This small act of unsung cooperation is a direct expression of your philosophical practice. So as you move through your day, hold this simple question in mind. What is one small, concrete action I can take today to benefit my immediate community? It does not need to be grand. It could be listening patiently to a family member without interruption, offering a genuine compliment to a stressed cashier, or tidying a shared space without being asked. In that conscious choice to contribute, you are not just checking a moral box, you are actively weaving your thread of tranquility into the larger tapestry, fulfilling your most fundamental human duty. When was the last time you sat in complete silence with your own thoughts? Our world is a constant broadcast of notifications, news, and noise, filling every spare moment and leaving little room for the most important conversation you will ever have, the one with yourself. The Stoics saw this inner dialogue not as a sign of loneliness, but as the very source of clarity and strength. Seneca captured this essential practice perfectly, advising us that we must give ourselves a change, though the circumstances remain the same. The means to do this are to cease to be busy with outward things and to retreat into yourself. This is the power of intentional silence, a deliberate withdrawal from the external circus to examine the workings of your own mind. It is not about emptying your head, but about listening to the thoughts that are already there, observing them without immediately reacting, and choosing which ones deserve your attention. Think of your mind as a clear pool of water. The constant input from the outside world is like tossing pebbles into it, creating ripples that distort your view of the bottom. Only when the surface becomes still can you see clearly what lies beneath. This practice of stillness is the foundation of journaling and self-examination, giving you the space to untangle your judgments before they become overwhelming passions. A simple way to begin is by reclaiming the first 10 minutes of your day. Instead of reaching for your phone the moment you wake, a gesture that immediately hands your attention over to the demands of others, try sitting in silence. You do not need to meditate in any formal sense. Just sit, perhaps with a notebook, and let your thoughts arrive. Observe the worries about the day ahead, the fragments of dreams, the mental to-do lists. Do not judge them or try to push them away. Simply notice them as if you were watching clouds drift across a sky. In this quiet space, you can ask yourself the Stoic questions from your evening review. What is within my control today? What virtue will I need to call upon? This small ritual builds your inner citadel brick by brick, each silent minute a layer of insulation against the chaos of the world. I invite you to try a brief experiment right now or later today. Find just 5 minutes, sit comfortably, set a timer if you like, and commit to doing nothing but being present with your own mind. Do not fight the thoughts that come, but do not follow them down their rabbit holes either. Just watch. What do you notice about the quality of your inner noise when you stop trying to drown it out? We are quick to judge others but slow to understand their perspective. This automatic habit of condemnation is a major source of our own daily irritation, and the Stoics offered a profound refrain for it. They taught that no one consciously chooses evil. People do wrong out of a kind of ignorance, a mistaken belief about what is truly good for them. When someone acts poorly, it is not from malice directed at you, but from a clouded understanding of their own self-interest. Your judgment of their character, your internal verdict that they are a bad person, often inflicts more lasting suffering on you than their original action ever could. Marcus Aurelius provided a simple, powerful rule for this in his Meditations, writing that we must accept people as they are and be tolerant with them. He reminds himself that it is a mark of a trained mind to find sweetness in being unjustly criticized, for it offers a chance to practice patience. Imagine you are driving and another car swerves dangerously into your lane. The immediate, raw judgment is that the driver is reckless, selfish, or even hostile. This story you tell yourself ignites a fire of anger in your chest. Your heart rate spikes, your grip tightens on the wheel, and your mood is poisoned for the next 20 minutes. Now, apply the Stoic lens of understanding. Suspend that initial verdict. Consider for a moment that the person might be distracted by a personal emergency. Perhaps they are rushing to a hospital, or they just received devastating news and their mind is 1,000 miles away. Their action remains dangerous and wrong, but the narrative explaining it shifts from one of personal offense to one of human fallibility. The event is the same, but your judgment of it has transformed, and with that transformation, your anger loses its fuel and begins to dissipate. You protect your own peace not by controlling their car, but by mastering your interpretation of their action. Bring to mind a recent judgment you made about someone. Perhaps a coworker who was short with you in a meeting, or a family member who forgot a promise. What was the story you immediately told yourself about their intentions? Now try to generate one compassionate, alternative explanation for their behavior. Maybe your coworker is overwhelmed by a pressure you cannot see. Perhaps your family member is so preoccupied with their own struggle that their memory failed. This is not about excusing poor behavior, but about freeing yourself from the secondary suffering that your own harsh judgment creates. By understanding more, you judge less, and in that space, your own tranquility finds room to grow. In Stoicism, gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a rational duty. This might seem counterintuitive, as we often think of thankfulness as a warm, spontaneous emotion. But the Stoics saw it as a clear-eyed acknowledgement of the vast, interconnected web of causes that supports our very existence. Every breath you take, every piece of knowledge you possess, every meal you eat is the result of countless people, events, and natural processes working in concert. To receive these gifts without conscious appreciation is to live with a kind of blindness to the fabric of reality itself. It is a failure to recognize your place within a providential universe. Marcus Aurelius left us a profound example of this in his private writings, where he meticulously listed the things he was grateful for. He did not just thank the gods for his education or his position. He expressed gratitude for his grandfather's character, for the teacher who taught him to endure labor, and even for the simple fact that he had the help he needed to rise from his bed each morning. He saw the beauty in a baked loaf of bread cracking open or ripe figs beginning to burst. His gratitude was a disciplined practice of seeing the essential goodness woven into the most ordinary moments. A powerful way to embed this duty into your own life is through a nightly gratitude journal. This is not about listing only the obvious victories and pleasant moments. The true Stoic practice is to extend your gratitude to the challenges and the people who have been difficult. You might write that you are grateful for the frustrating project at work because it taught you patience. You might feel thankful for the critical feedback because it revealed a blind spot you can now address. By finding the hidden gift in the obstacle, you are actively practicing Amor Fati, loving your fate, and transforming every experience into fuel for your growth. So, wherever you are right now, pause for just a moment. Without overthinking it, mentally list 3 things you are grateful for in this very instant. It could be the chair supporting you, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, or the simple fact that you have a mind capable of hearing these words and reflecting on them. Notice how this small, rational act of acknowledgement shifts the atmosphere of your mind, replacing a sense of lack with a quiet, sturdy joy. Much of our suffering comes from wanting what we do not have and avoiding what we fear. This restless tug of war between desire and aversion is the engine of our daily anxiety, constantly pulling us away from a quiet mind. The Stoics proposed a radical solution, not to fulfill every desire or eliminate every fear, but to retrain them entirely. They taught that we should direct our desire only toward one thing, our own virtue and wisdom, and our aversion only toward one thing, vice and foolishness. When your deepest yearning is to act with courage and justice, and your greatest fear is to act with cowardice or deceit, you become truly invulnerable to the whims of fortune. Your happiness is no longer tied to external rewards or threatened by external setbacks. The philosopher Epictetus, in his essential manual, The Enchiridion, gave a precise formula for this inner freedom. He wrote that freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of your desires, but by the removal of your desires. He meant that we become free when we stop craving the possessions, the status, and the approval that lie in the hands of others. Consider the common desire for a promotion at work. If you desire it for the wrong reasons, for the corner office, the higher title, or the envy of your peers, you have chained your happiness to an outcome you do not fully control. You might not get it, or you might get it and find the reality hollow and unsatisfying. But if you desire that promotion for the right reasons, aligned with virtue, your motivation shifts entirely. You want it as an opportunity to better fulfill your duty, to lead with integrity, to mentor others, and to contribute more significantly to your community. The desire itself is now for something within your control, your own effort and intention. The outcome, whether you receive the promotion or not, becomes secondary. You can pursue it with calm determination, free from the agony of needing a specific result to feel worthy. This week, bring one of your own strong desires into the light of this examination. It might be the desire for a new relationship, a certain amount of money, or recognition for a project. Ask yourself with gentle honesty, what is the true root of this wanting? Is it a genuine pull toward expressing your best character, or is it a longing for an external validation that will eventually fade? If you achieved it, would you truly be a more virtuous person, or simply a more decorated one? This is not a call to abandon ambition, but to purify its source, ensuring your deepest wants serve your soul, not your ego. You are not an isolated island, but a leaf on a great living tree. This profound sense of unity is what the Stoics called sympatheia, the belief that the entire cosmos is a single, rational, and interconnected organism. In this vast system, every part exists in a delicate, symbiotic relationship with every other part. A change in one corner of the universe creates a ripple, however subtle, through the whole. To feel separate, to believe your life is a solo performance, is to misunderstand the fundamental nature of reality. This perspective was a cornerstone for Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in his Meditations that all things are intertwined with one another and the bond is sacred. He saw that nothing exists in a true vacuum, that your existence is woven from the same thread as the stars, the oceans, and every other human being. To internalize this is to feel a deep, abating sense of loneliness replaced by a quiet, constant companionship with the world itself. This understanding naturally cultivates a powerful sense of duty. If you are a leaf on the universal tree, then the health of the branch, the trunk, and the roots is inseparable from your own well-being. Your actions are never just about you. They are contributions to or withdrawals from the vitality of the whole. This shifts your motivation from a narrow self-interest to a broader, more rational concern for the common welfare. Think of your relationship to the natural environment. You might be tempted to see recycling a single plastic bottle as an insignificant act, a drop in a vast ocean. But through the lens of sympatheia, that one act is a conscious affirmation of your connection to the planet. You are acknowledging that the health of the forests, the purity of the rivers, and the stability of the climate are not separate from your own life. They are the very ground from which your life grows. The same principle applies to social justice. An injustice suffered by a stranger in a distant city is not an isolated event. It is a tear in the fabric of the human community to which you belong. Working to mend that tear, perhaps through informed voting or compassionate dialogue, is not merely charity. It is a rational act of maintenance for the system you are a part of. So today, as you move through your world, bring this question to one of your actions. When you choose what to buy at the grocery store, or how to speak to a customer service agent, or even where you dispose of a piece of trash, take a single moment to contemplate the invisible threads. How is this small choice connected to the well-being of a farmer you will never meet, the emotional state of a stranger, or the vitality of the local park? In that moment of recognition, your daily life becomes a practice in sacred connection. Being insulted says more about the insulter than it does about you. This is not just a comforting platitude. It is a practical psychological tool the Stoics used to build an emotional armor that was virtually impenetrable. When someone hurls an insult your way, its power to wound you comes entirely from your own agreement, your assent to the judgment it contains. If a person shouts that you are a purple giraffe, you would likely feel nothing but confusion because you know with certainty that the statement is false. The sting of a real insult works the same way. It only lands if some hidden part of you fears it might be true. Your character, however, is not defined by the words others throw at you, but by the actions you choose to take each day. The philosopher Epictetus, who endured the profound insult of slavery, gave a masterclass in this detachment. He advised that when you are insulted, you must remember that the person is speaking from a place of misguided belief about what is good. He is acting under the impression that by putting you down, he elevates himself, a clear error in judgment born from his own internal confusion or pain. The insult is a symptom of his ailment, not a diagnosis of your worth. Consider a public figure giving a speech on a controversial topic. afterward, a viral social media post misrepresents their words, sparking a wave of vicious personal attacks in the comments. The reactive, non-stoic response would be to fire back with a defensive tweet, to obsessively refresh the page reading each new insult, and to let the outrage hijack their entire emotional state for days. The Stoic response is one of calm indifference. They would analyze the source, recognizing that the critics are often anonymous strangers projecting their own frustrations onto a convenient target. They would see the intent is not constructive but destructive, and therefore not worthy of their serious consideration. Their focus remains locked on their own virtuous conduct, on whether their original speech was delivered with integrity and for the common good. That is the only part of the event within their control. The insults themselves are just digital noise, meaningless unless they choose to tune them in. Think back to a time you felt genuinely insulted. It might have been a cutting remark from a relative about your life choices, or a colleague's dismissive comment about your work. Recall the heat of that moment. Now, re-examine it through this detached, analytical lens. What was the state of mind of the person who insulted you? Were they feeling insecure, stressed, or jealous? Was their comment a reflection of a truth about you, or was it a revelation of a struggle within them? By shifting your focus from your own wounded feelings to the inner world of the other person, the insult loses its personal venom and becomes simply a data point about human suffering. This is how you build a thick skin, not by becoming numb, but by becoming a wiser observer of the human condition. Courage is not fearlessness, it is reason prevailing over fear. This Stoic definition strips away the myth that brave people feel no terror, and instead locates true courage in the conscious choice to act rightly, even when every instinct screams to retreat. It is one of the four cardinal virtues, standing alongside wisdom, justice, and moderation, because a life of principle is impossible without the fortitude to uphold it when circumstances grow difficult. Courage is the virtue that allows all the others to function under pressure, ensuring your convictions are not just fair-weather ideals but unshakable guides. Seneca captured this dynamic relationship with fortune beautifully, observing that fortune favors the brave. This is not a promise of easy success, but a recognition that fortune, which controls so much of what happens to us, cannot truly harm the person who does not cower before her. The brave person engages with life fully, accepting both its risks and its rewards, because their self-worth is rooted in their virtuous intent, not in a guaranteed outcome. Think of a team meeting where a popular but ethically questionable plan is gaining momentum. You feel the weight of the room's agreement, the subtle social pressure to conform, and a sharp anxiety about being the lone voice of dissent. Your heart might beat faster, your palms may grow damp. The fearful path is to stay silent, to let the moment pass. The courageous path, guided by Stoic reason, is to take a breath and speak. You are not fearless, you feel the fear acutely, but your judgment has already determined that the proposed action conflicts with justice or integrity. Your courage is the decision to let that reasoned judgment dictate your action, not the visceral discomfort of social friction. The outcome of the vote is not within your control, but your choice to voice a principled concern 100% is. That action, regardless of the result, is a victory for your character. Where in your own life is fear currently acting as a gatekeeper, blocking a virtuous action you know you should take? Perhaps it is the fear of a difficult conversation with a loved one, a conversation rooted in a desire for a more honest and just relationship. Maybe it is the fear of proposing a new idea at work that you believe in but others might ridicule. Identify that one area, then break it down. Do not demand a grand, sweeping act of bravery from yourself tomorrow. Instead, plan one single, small step. If the virtuous action is the difficult conversation, the courageous step is not the entire dialogue, but simply writing down the first sentence you would say. If it is proposing the idea, the step is mentioning it to one trusted colleague over coffee. This is how courage is built, not in a single heroic leap, but through the daily practice of letting reason, not fear, choose your direction. Does having more actually make you worry less? Our culture sells us a powerful story that the next purchase, the next upgrade, will finally be the one that brings us lasting peace. Yet, we find ourselves on a treadmill, running faster but never arriving, our minds cluttered with the maintenance of our possessions and the fear of losing them. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus argued forcefully for a life of deliberate simplicity, not as a punishment, but as a path to true freedom. He taught that luxury and extravagance create needs, and these needs then become chains, making us dependent on fortune for our happiness. By actively choosing to live with less, we are not practicing deprivation, we are training for independence. We strip away the non-essential to focus our energy on the only things that are truly essential, our own virtue and our capacity for clear reason. Seneca, a man of immense wealth, constantly warned himself and others of its seductive dangers. He wrote that wealth is the slave of a wise man and the master of a fool. For the person guided by reason, money is a tool to be used for good, but for the person without inner wisdom, it becomes a demanding master, dictating their moods and fueling their anxieties. The wise person owns their things, the fool is owned by them. A modern application of this is the conscious decision to declutter your living space. Look around your home at the stacks of unused items, the clothes you never wear, the gadgets that promised happiness but now just collect dust. Each one of these objects represents a small mental weight, a tiny thread of attachment to the external world. The act of letting them go is not just a physical cleaning, it is a philosophical statement. It is a declaration that your peace does not reside in these things. Similarly, reducing unnecessary subscriptions, whether to streaming services, monthly boxes, or even the constant stream of digital news, is a form of mental decluttering. You are intentionally creating space both in your environment and in your mind for what truly matters. So tonight, take a quiet moment with a notebook. Ask yourself this simple, probing question. What are 3 possessions or habits I could simplify or eliminate to reduce the mental clutter in my life? It might be that overflowing closet, the habit of mindless online shopping when bored, or the constant background noise of a television. Identify them not with guilt, but with the clarity of a gardener pruning a plant, cutting away what is dead to allow what is living to flourish. Who are the moral exemplars you look up to in your life? We are profoundly shaped by the characters we choose to admire, and the Stoics understood that virtue is not built in a vacuum. They actively studied the lives of sages and good men, treating their biographies as living textbooks. These stories provided more than just inspiration. They offered concrete, actionable examples of how to navigate adversity with wisdom and grace. Seneca wrote extensively on this practice in his letters, advising his friend Lucilius to choose a model for your own life, someone whose way of living and even their face you keep before your mind, ordering yourself as if they were watching. He was not suggesting slavish imitation, but the conscious emulation of a proven moral compass. To have a Cato or a Socrates or a modern figure of integrity in your mind's eye is to have a constant, silent mentor guiding your choices. Imagine you are facing a difficult ethical dilemma at work, a situation where cutting a small corner could bring a significant reward. Now, bring to mind a person you deeply respect for their unwavering integrity. How would they have navigated this crossroads? What principle would have guided their hand? By projecting their character onto your situation, you gain immediate clarity, cutting through the fog of your own conflicting desires. This practice transforms abstract virtue into a lived reality. So, take a moment for this reflective exercise. Identify one person you genuinely admire for their character, whether a historical figure like Marcus Aurelius or a contemporary leader known for their compassion and fairness. Then, write down 3 specific traits of that person you wish to cultivate in yourself. Is it their unshakable courage in speaking truth to power, their profound patience in dealing with frustration, their consistent kindness even when tired or stressed? By naming these qualities, you move them from the realm of admiration into the domain of your own deliberate practice, setting a clear course for your own growth. The only constant in life is change. Fighting it is like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands, a futile struggle that exhausts the spirit. This truth was not just a philosophical observation for the Stoics, it was a foundational principle of their physics. They saw the entire cosmos as a living, breathing entity they called pneuma, a divine, intelligent fire in a state of perpetual flux. Everything you see, from the tallest mountain to the cells in your body, is in a continuous process of transformation, a constant flowing and reordering of the same fundamental substance. To wish for anything to stay the same is to wish against the very nature of reality itself. Marcus Aurelius meditated on this often, writing that the universe is transformation and life is opinion. Our suffering does not come from the changes themselves, but from the opinion we hold that they are bad, that they disrupt a stability that was never truly there. The key to equanimity is to align your opinions with this universal law of impermanence. Consider the experience of an unexpected move to a new city, a change that can feel deeply disruptive. The instinct is to cling to the old home, the familiar streets, the established routines, and to see the relocation as a loss. This resistance creates a deep internal conflict, a tension between the way you wish things were and the way they are. The Stoic approach is to consciously shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on what is being left behind, you train your attention on what is being offered. This new city is a blank page, an opportunity to build new connections, to discover hidden strengths as you navigate unfamiliar territory, and to see the world through a fresh lens. The change itself is neutral, but your opinion of it determines whether you experience it as a catastrophe or an adventure. What significant change are you currently resisting in your own life? It might be a shifting dynamic in a relationship, an evolving role at work, or the simple, undeniable fact of aging. Take a moment to identify it without judgment. Now, gently explore the opinion you are holding about it. What story are you telling yourself about why this change is negative? What if you began to tell a different story, one that accepts this transformation not as a personal affront, but as a necessary and natural part of the universal flow? In that acceptance, you do not surrender your power, you reclaim the peace that resistance has been stealing from you all along. You can get back lost money, but you can never get back lost time. This single, sobering fact makes time the ultimate non-renewable currency of your life. The Stoics viewed its misuse not as a simple error in scheduling, but as a profound philosophical failure, a theft from your own potential. Seneca poured his anguish over this human tendency into his essay on the shortness of life, observing that life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested. He was not complaining about the number of years, but about our wasteful squandering of them. We act as if we have an endless supply of tomorrows, postponing what matters for a future that is never guaranteed, while the present moment, the only time we truly own, slips away unnoticed. This is why the Stoic treats time with the same deliberate care a master artisan treats a rare and precious material. investing it only in pursuits that develop virtue, deepen understanding, or benefit the common good. Every hour spent on gossip, mindless scrolling, or nursing old grudges is an hour permanently lost, a small piece of your life spent on something that leaves no meaningful trace. A practical way to begin this reclamation is to conduct a simple, honest audit of your past week. Take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the center. On one side, list the activities that actively built your character or helped someone else. Moments like focused learning, sincere conversation, physical exercise, or volunteering. On the other side, log the time dedicated to passive consumption, idle worry, or trivial entertainments that left you feeling emptier than before. Do not judge the totals, simply observe them with the clarity of an accountant reviewing a ledger. The goal is not to eliminate all leisure, but to ensure your time investments align with your stated values. How many of your waking hours last week were spent on things that, in the grand scheme of your life, will truly matter? The answer to that question is not meant to induce guilt, but to ignite a quiet revolution in how you choose to live from this moment forward. We crave connection yet desperately guard our solitude, a modern paradox that leaves us feeling both crowded and lonely. The Stoics saw no contradiction here, only a rhythm to be mastered. Their ideal was a person who finds complete self-sufficiency in silence, yet steps into the public square with full-hearted engagement, viewing both states as essential duties. The philosopher Epictetus framed this balance with characteristic clarity, teaching that a person must be able to be content alone, yet also mingle with others without losing their inner compass. He was not describing two different people, but the same individual flowing skillfully between two necessary modes of being. Your time in solitude is where you strengthen your principles through reflection and study, building the inner citadel. Your time in society is where you test those principles through action, expressing justice and benevolence in the real world. One mode prepares you for the other, creating a virtuous cycle where reflection informs action, and action, in turn, gives you new material for reflection. A day lived with this intention might begin with 30 minutes of quiet journaling, a deliberate withdrawal to examine your intentions and reinforce what is within your control. This is not an escape from the world, but a preparation for it. Then, later that same day, you would consciously schedule an act of collaboration, perhaps actively listening to a team member's idea without interruption or offering practical help to a neighbor. The quiet morning fortifies you for the engaged afternoon, and the interactions of the afternoon provide rich lessons for the next morning's reflection. Look back over the past 7 days of your own life. Does the pattern of your time lean heavily toward one extreme? Were you mostly isolated, perhaps lost in your own thoughts without sharing your strengths? Or were you constantly surrounded, swept up in a social current that left no room for you to hear your own mind? The goal is not a perfect 50-50 split, but a conscious awareness of the rhythm. Where could you introduce one small, balancing counterweight to find a more harmonious and resilient way of being? Forgiveness is not weakness, it is the ultimate act of self-interest and strength. When you hold a grudge, you are the one carrying the weight of that anger, a poison you drink hoping the other person will feel its effects. The Stoic approach to forgiveness is a radical act of self-liberation. It is a conscious, rational choice to release the passion of resentment because you recognize that it only harms you, the one who clings to it. Your peace of mind is far too valuable to be held hostage by someone else's past actions. Marcus Aurelius offered a profoundly practical insight for this very situation. He reminded himself that to be angry with someone is like being angry with a fig tree for producing figs. It is their nature to act according to their own flawed understanding. When someone wrongs you, they do so from a mistaken belief about what is good, from their own ignorance or pain. To expect them to have acted otherwise is as unreasonable as expecting a stone to fly. Their action was a result of their character at that moment, and your resentment is a refusal to accept this simple, unchangeable fact of reality. Consider a friend who forgot an important commitment to you, an oversight that caused you genuine inconvenience and hurt. The non-Stoic reaction is to hold onto that hurt, to let it color your interactions, to build a small, cold wall between you. The Stoic practice of forgiveness asks you to see the event through a different lens. Your friend acted from a place of distraction or a failure of judgment, not from a desire to cause you harm. Their character in that moment was incapable of a better action. By forgiving them, you are not condoning the behavior. You are simply accepting the nature of the event and choosing to free yourself from the ongoing burden of anger. You reclaim the mental energy that was being wasted on replaying the offense and redirect it toward your own tranquility and future virtuous actions. Now bring to mind one person you have not yet forgiven, someone whose action still creates a flicker of heat in your chest when you recall it. Do not focus on the drama of what they did, but on the sensation of the resentment itself. Feel its weight, then take a moment to write down a single, honest answer to this question. How would releasing this specific resentment directly benefit my own peace? Would it quiet the internal monologue? Would it free up space in your heart for more constructive thoughts? This writing is not for them. It is a contract you make with yourself, a declaration that your inner calm is more important than any old story of wrongs. A routine is only timeless if it is lived, not just learned. These individual Stoic practices are not meant to be a checklist of chores, but threads to be woven into the single, continuous fabric of your daily existence. The goal is not to achieve perfect execution of each exercise, but to cultivate a seamless mental posture, a default setting of calm reason and resilient virtue that operates in the background of your life. The ancient Stoics did not see philosophy as an academic subject, but as a medicine for the soul, a practical art to be applied at every moment. As the philosopher Epictetus instructed, if you did not learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, then what did you learn them for? The transformation happens not in the moment of reading, but in the moment of doing, when the principles become so ingrained they guide your reactions without conscious effort. Imagine a sample day lived with this integrated mindset. You wake up and instead of grabbing your phone, you spend the first 5 minutes in silence, performing the morning invocation. You mentally rehearse the day ahead, identifying what is within your control and what is not, setting your intention to act with patience and integrity regardless of external events. During your commute, when traffic grinds to a halt, you feel the initial flare of frustration, but you practice the discipline of assent. You notice the angry thought, pause, and choose not to fuel it, instead using the view from above to see your car as one small part of a vast, flowing city. At work, a colleague makes a sharp comment. You feel the sting, but rather than reacting with a cutting reply, you apply the lens of understanding, considering that their behavior likely springs from their own stress. You choose the Stoic action of a calm, measured response for the common good of the team dynamic. Later, when an unexpected problem derails your afternoon, you briefly engage in Premeditatio Malorum, calmly considering the worst realistic outcome and realizing you have the inner resources to handle it. On the walk home, you practice voluntary discomfort by taking the longer route in the cool air, feeling the strength in your body and your independence from constant comfort. Over dinner, you are fully present, practicing the art of contentment by savoring the taste of your food and the sound of a loved one's voice. Finally, before sleep, you conduct your evening review, gently examining one interaction where you could have been more understanding and one where you demonstrated courage. You end the day with a moment of rational gratitude, acknowledging the hidden gift within the day's biggest challenge. This is not a rigid schedule to follow perfectly, but a fluid illustration of how these practices can intertwine. Your own personalized routine will be unique. The invitation is to design it yourself. From all the principles we have explored, which 3 or 4 resonate most deeply with your current life? Perhaps it is the morning intention, the evening review, and a commitment to one small act of voluntary discomfort. Or maybe it is the view from above, the practice of Amor Fati, and a dedicated 5 minutes of silence. Choose a small, sustainable set. Weave them into the natural rhythm of your day with gentle consistency. The power lies not in doing everything at once, but in the cumulative effect of a few chosen practices, repeated until they color your every thought and action, transforming philosophy from a concept you understand into a life you inhabit. The soul does indeed take on the color of its thoughts. This single idea from Marcus Aurelius captures the entire promise of a Stoic routine. In a world that feels perpetually unstable, your inner stability does not have to be a casualty. The timeless practices of a Stoic mind offer a profound alternative, a way to build an unshakable core of purpose and peace. We have journeyed through the essential tools, from the grounding morning invocation that reminds you of the dichotomy of control, to the evening review that turns experience into wisdom. We have explored the radical acceptance of Amor Fati, loving your fate, and the mental fire drills of premeditating challenges. These are not separate tricks, but parts of a single, integrated system for living. This philosophy is not a rigid set of rules to be followed perfectly, but a flexible and deeply human toolkit designed for the beautiful mess of real life. It asks you to see your mind as a garden that you can tend with daily care, planting seeds of reason and weeding out the passions of fear and desire. The ultimate goal is to reach a point where these principles are no longer just practices, but your default way of being, a lens through which you naturally view every setback and every joy. Your journey begins not with a grand overhaul, but with a single, deliberate choice. This week, choose just one of these Stoic exercises to weave into the fabric of your days. Perhaps it is the morning intention, or the nightly gratitude journal, or simply pausing to ask what is within your control the next time you feel frustration rising. The power is in the doing, in the consistent, gentle application. As you start this practice, you are not alone. Share your discoveries and your questions in the comments below. Let us build a community of practice, learning from each other as we navigate this uncertain world with a little more calm, a little more courage, and a soul colored by thoughts of our own conscious choosing.